This is fine. This is a poor substitute for therapy, but an excellent substitute for other podcasts.
We're not like other podcasts.
Join us as we find the answers to the universe's biggest questions like, is butter a carb? Does crying burn calories? And what the fuck am I doing with my life? We're here to be your part-time therapist, astrologer, concierge doctor, and fairy godmother. Do you need someone to validate you today? Cool. Come on in. We're fine. This is fine. Greetings, beautiful angels. Welcome back to another episode of This is Fine. Or if this is your first episode, welcome to our sparkly and obnoxious universe. If you are friends with today's guest, you might be thinking, how did this happen? Why is he here? And honestly, I'm asking the same question, but we're going to vibe it out. Today, we've got another Paris episode about the expat experience, but we're a couple standard deviations away from Emily. First of all, we've got a guy on the show, hold for applause, and he's not American. My sweet friend Blair from New Zealand is here to share his experience immigrating to France, working as a lawyer in Paris, and what it's like being a foreigner in this country. From what I've witnessed, he's having a pretty sweet time, so today's episode should be particularly upbeat. Fun fact, Blair was a radio host at one point. At least that's what he told me. I cannot tell if he was pranking me, so this will be fun. I would share my perfume of the day, but we're actually going to do a perfume smasher pass at the end of this and get Blair's takes on some fragrances in my collection, so stay tuned for that. He actually did say that we can't say smash because he has a grown-up job where people take him seriously, so I might have to edit some of that later. All right, let's get on with it, shall we? Blair, welcome finally to your first official episode of This is Fine. Thank you for being here.
Hey Dominique, no, thanks very much for having me.
What did you just
Listen, what?
I thought you called me something funny already. So he's already slipping the jokes in.
No.
How does it feel to be on your first podcast episode here?
It's an honor and a privilege.
That's my line.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so we start
I'm a long-time listener. First time caller,
yeah. First time guest. Yeah. Okay, well then we start off every episode by asking, are you fine today?
Yep, I'm definitely fine. I'm great, actually. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. We just had some burgers.
Yeah.
Iconic. Okay, so I would love for you to bring our listeners up to speed with who you are. If they're like, I don't know him, he's not famous. I mean, he is to some people. You never know. Can you give them just a little debrief on who is Blair?
Yeah, sure. I'm certainly not famous, but I'm
amongst certain people.
Yeah, my name is Blair. I'm a guy living in Paris. I'm from New Zealand. I'm a lawyer here. I've been living in Paris for almost 5 years now.
That's so cool.
I'm from a place in New Zealand called Tauranga. It's on the east coast of the North Island. No one's heard of it, but in New Zealand, it's an important place. Or at least
famous in New Zealand.
Yeah, just like me. No, but yep, and working here in international arbitration, which is a type of law which is disputes that are international, I suppose, is the simplest way of saying it. And
do you settle fights?
that is the job, actually. Big fights.
So you're like a technical referee.
Essentially, yeah.
Sounds important. Very cool. We'll get more into that as well in terms of working in France. But obviously this episode, we really wanted to set it up as an expat experience. We have a lot of girly pops on here talking about moving to Paris, the whole Emily in Paris thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like you could be like a Chad in Paris. Like you bring a different perspective, and I think that will resonate with a lot of people, just to, diversify it up a little bit. So Let's talk about, I guess in general, your connection to Paris, your connection to France. Was it always like a dream for you to move here? Was the New Zealand to France pipeline very strong for you? What was that like?
So in some ways it was a dream, but it was something I never really thought about happening. I think when I was a kid, I used to think that I wanted to travel everywhere, but I think France was the place that I really wanted to go to, and especially Paris. But I never learned French. They didn't even teach it at my school, actually.
No way.
The foreign languages on offer were Spanish and Japanese. And essentially, New Zealand's a strange place for foreign languages because we speak English and we're so far away from the rest of the world.
Right, so isolated.
So, I mean, I wanted to do foreign affairs when I was at high school and university, so which is a job where you should do languages, right? But when you're in New Zealand, like no foreign languages really seem certain enough that you would actually use it, because all the countries are so far away, and you're like, I would think, oh, like French would be good, but I mean, then you start thinking about the places that speak it, and you're like, am I actually ever going to end up living in one of those
like
places? They're also, I guess maybe when I go on holidays to New Caledonia, it would be helpful. So you kind of do this process of elimination with each language, and none really stick out. So I didn't really expect to ever live in France. It was a bit of a rite of passage in New Zealand to do what we call an OE, which is short for overseas experience, which is where you go and live overseas for a few years. And commonly that's London, especially people who've gone to university, or Australia, or other places, you know, Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, that type of thing. France isn't one of them because of the language barrier.
Makes sense.
So, and especially because I ended up becoming a lawyer, you can't really practice law in a language and country, and when you haven't been to law school there. But I did end up here as through chance mainly, and so
let's talk about that chance. How did that happen?
So when I finished my studies in New Zealand, I went and worked at a law firm in New Zealand doing litigation, civil and commercial litigation, so court disputes essentially. And after 2.5 years there, I went and did my master's in the States at Duke in North Carolina. It was a 1 year.
That one is famous.
So I went there wanting to get into international law, and essentially while I was on my way to the States, I won the green card lottery. And so it's extremely hard to get work visas for the States.
Yeah.
So people would normally go and do a master's and then leave. So I was thinking I'd go do my master's for 1 year and then I'd go and do my OE. Or I suppose I was starting my OE in the States, but I thought I would probably go to London after that.
Okay.
And then I won the green card lottery, which made me think, I should try and get a job in the States. You know, they pay very handsomely, and it'd be a cool experience to like work as a lawyer in New York or something. Like no one from New Zealand really does that. So I started networking for jobs in New York and DC, and I started meeting people for coffee, asking about that. And one lady I met for coffee in January 2020 said, oh, by the way, I know this New Zealand guy he just became a partner at one of the best firms in the world in their Paris office. I'll put you in contact with him. And I phoned him just to find out whether it was possible to work in Paris in this field of law without speaking French. And he was like, yeah, it is possible. There's actually another New Zealander here who doesn't speak a word of French, and he's been here 5 years. And then he asked to interview me. I did some interviews and they offered me a 6-month internship. And I was thinking, well, that's cool. One of the best firms has offered me a job, and these are the first interviews I've even done.
Casual.
Since I've started my job at my law firm in New Zealand.
You really are
3 years
Emily
ago.
in Paris.
But I was thinking, I'm not going to give up the green card and the high-paying job in New York that I expect I will get for this 6-month internship in Paris.
Because that's a really big deal. I think a lot of the American listeners might not know how big of a deal it is to get that green card, having lived there their whole lives, and not having to go through that process. Like, that's a really big deal. It's really difficult.
And it was a bit cheeky of me because it was something I never really thought about. Like, some people apply every year and they're like dreaming of it, whereas I was just like, I'm going to do my master's. I should just like throw my name in the ring, and then I won, and I was like, oh, that was easy.
Cool. Both Emily in Paris and Elle Woods.
Yeah, exactly. But so then essentially a few days after I received that offer, and by then it was March 2020, you know what happened then?
Sure do.
COVID.
Like, wait, no, tell me.
And so we went in, like, all the lockdowns started happening. Every firm in the world suddenly went quiet and stopped hiring. And at this point, I'd only been on coffee dates. You know, I hadn't actually applied to anywhere. Okay. So then it quickly became clear that I wasn't going to be able to get any job by the time that my master's finished.
Right.
And so I just thought, well, you know, I should accept that 6-month job in Paris.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And see what happens. So.
Dang, the fact that you were able to get here at all is kind of crazy.
Well, that was a bit of a nightmare as well, because Then about a week after COVID hit at Duke, and Duke said, don't come back to class. If you've left campus, don't come back to campus. And I'd left campus for the night. So I'd gone to Asheville for a couple of days, and I was like, well, look, I know they said don't come back, but I mean, I'm not going to stay at this Airbnb in Asheville for the indefinite future. I'm going to drive a few hours back to my house in Durham. So I did that, and then, but all my friends were Americans, and they had all gone home. And they all decided to stay.
Which is much easier for them versus going all the way back to New Zealand.
So then after a few days, as well, New Zealand announced that they would be shutting the borders. Well, imposing a mandatory 2-week quarantine if you came back.
Right.
And that they said, come now. If you're going to come back, come now, because otherwise, like, airlines are probably going to stop flying here because of that.
That's
so I suddenly thought, it was.
I forgot that we like lived through that.
Yeah, no, that was a very scary few days, and I was really torn about what to do. And in the end, I decided, look, if all my friends are staying at home for a few weeks anyway, this is a good opportunity for me to go home and see my family while I'm not missing out on any campus life.
Right, yeah.
And I'll probably just come back in 2 to 3 weeks' time.
For sure.
Yeah. Because at this point, I still thought, I think we all thought it wasn't going to be a hugely big
it's just
deal.
Maybe a few weeks. No, I was one of the like apocalyptic people. I was like, we're not going to see the sun for like 2 years.
Right. No, I was not like that at all. So I texted my friends. I was like, all right, I'm going home for 2-3 weeks. See you in a bit. I packed like a small suitcase, left all my stuff in the house.
Jeez.
And, went back to New Zealand. I did 2 weeks of quarantine, staying in my parents' camper van in the backyard, and then in the end, never made it back. There was one day where I booked a flight for a few months later, eventually, and then the day before came, and we had a lot of drama trying to work out whether I should go. And because in New Zealand by that point there was no COVID anymore, and we'd been living COVID free for several weeks.
You guys were like chilling down there. Yeah.
We had a hard lockdown for, I forget, maybe 5 weeks or so, and then we went back to normal life. And meantime, it was like there were the COVID rates in the States were extremely high. And so that was quite scary when you're living in a country where you hadn't had to deal with it. And so we really ummed and ahed about whether I should go, and then decided to delay. And then in the end, I never made it back.
Yeah, how'd you do your stuff?
I had to get my friends to pack it up and send it over. But in the end, luckily France reopened in time. I was able to get my visa. I was able to fly to Paris.
In 2020.
Yeah, so September 2020. And so, 2020 was a crazy year for me because I lived in three countries, 3 continents: New Zealand, the States, and France. And like moving continents twice in a pandemic year is I wouldn't suggest doing that, but it at least made an otherwise kind of crazy year. Well, it was still crazy, but it was, there was some excitement to it, and made it to France in September 2020. It was very strange flying over because the airport was empty, because if you left New Zealand, you essentially couldn't come back, because by that point they'd brought in hotel quarantine, and there was only a small number of hotel rooms, and so essentially you'd have to enter the lottery, which went on live like once a week. So leaving really meant like you didn't know if you could come back. So that was a very scary experience. The airport was empty, but I made it.
Yeah, damn. Okay, so you moved during COVID, which brings its own unique set of challenges, and I'm guessing maybe some things that were like maybe cool. I don't know. What was the experience like, do you think, compared to someone who moved like me, not during a pandemic time?
Yeah. That's a good question. I guess I couldn't have as much fun when I moved here.
Sure.
Luckily, in September of 2020, there weren't so many restrictions. You had to wear a mask.
It was lessened for a little bit and then kicked back up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And luckily I had about 6 to 8 weeks of few restrictions, and in that time I was able to make lots of friends.
Okay. Did you know anyone ahead of time?
Yeah, I had a small number of friends in Paris when I moved.
How?
I had 2 from Caitlin and Lucas, who you know from when I
study abroad.
Yeah, when I studied abroad in Germany.
Okay.
And there were some friends of mine in my master's class at Duke who were from France.
Oh, sick. Okay. So you just happened to know people in Paris.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so that made it a lot easier. I managed to make a bunch of friends so that then when the curfew came and the lockdown came in the winter of 2020 and 2021, I had friends to hang out with. I think it was also kind of helpful because it gave me it took away distractions so I could really focus on doing a good job in this 6 month thing and getting hired permanently. And I also I'd signed up for the New York bar exam before the pandemic, and then I just kind of stayed signed up for it. So in February of 2020, I utilized the lockdown to just do that. Yeah, because they let us do it online. And I organized with work that I would just do it anyway and have 2 weeks of study leave. And that I thought I will study beforehand because it's winter and we're in lockdown. Yeah. But in the end, I didn't really manage to study beforehand. I then asked work for an extra week, so I had 3 weeks. People normally have 3 months, maybe a minimum of 2 months. And then I have, luckily, I have some cousins who live in the southwest of France, in Le Land, near the Spanish border. Yeah, and they're Kiwis, but they moved here 30 years ago, and they had a spare cottage which they said I could use. So I had this kind of little rom-com style thing where I went down to this,
sorry, I keep relating you to women. I'm so sorry.
I went down and had this little cottage in this tiny town, and I went there for 3 weeks and just kind of crammed for 3 months of study into that, passed the New York bar exam somehow. It was very strange because I looked at the mountain of books that they're given, and all the stuff in the course says you have to memorize all of this. And they say, we know that you're going to think, no, I'm not going to, but the reality is you actually have to.
You retain all of that information?
But I was like, look, I know that you say that I have to memorize all of this, but there is no way that all of that, that meter high pile of books is going to my brain in 1 week. So I just lay on the couch, put on the lectures, and just watched it like TV, and then sometimes I would walk around the pool and just talk to myself, and in the end it worked. But
okay.
But so there were advantages from the lack of distractions, and then it meant that in the spring of 2021, when things started to relax, Paris was kind of taking leveling up, for me, and I was able to experience. It was kind of like growing up with Paris in a way, as opposed to kind of just coming and getting to enjoy it all at once. It was I'd been grounded, and then I'd been a teenager, learning things, and then all of a sudden I was an adult and able to enjoy the place.
Blossoming with the spring. Yeah. Amazing. Did knowing people and having cousins in the South help your decision to move to a new country?
Yeah, definitely. Also, my mum had lived in Paris when she was younger as an au pair.
Cool.
So I think...
Does she speak French?
She did at the time. Okay. I think she's forgotten most of it now.
Did that inspire... You said that you had thought about it since you were a kid, France had seemed to Paris. Was that part of the lore for you?
Yeah, she'd always talked about it. And I think... And, when I was thinking of going back to the States... while I was in New Zealand, and that all seemed kind of scary, and a lot of people around me were saying I don't know if that seems a good idea, because in the news it seemed kind of a bit of turmoil.
Right. But anything compared to New Zealand was turmoil at that time.
But I think my parents were quite a lot more supportive of me taking the plane to France, because I think Mum, having lived in Paris,
she had a trust.
Yeah.
Did you visit before you moved?
I had visited once, but only for, I think, maybe 3 nights. Okay. It was when I did a 6-month semester abroad in my undergraduate studies, which was in Tübingen in the southwest of Germany.
Right, okay.
And I did a long weekend in Paris then.
Cool. And that was the beginning of your love story with Paris.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned that your job is in English, but maintenant, comment va ton français?
Yes, no, my job is all in English. So I have been learning French, though. I need to do a French exam in a few weeks, actually, to get my 10-year.
You've been doing tutoring, right?
Yeah.
Your lessons, right? Okay. What level are you at now?
My lessons are at the B1, B2 level.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yep. For this exam, I only need to pass A2.
Okay.
To get the 10-year residence permit.
Oh, right. Okay, so you've been here 5 years. You're applying for the 10-year residence permit, not for naturalization?
I think I can do that as well, but work is organising
the 10-year card.
Yeah.
That's so
I think
chill.
the citizenship is something I would need to do on my own.
Do they want a podcaster at your farm?
Potentially. If you want to get into law podcasts.
I know, I'm looking at all the options right now. I think I told you I can't apply for my Italian passport right now. We made some law changes, so I'm just like, who wants to get married? Kidding, I swear to God. Okay, back to the connection of like New Zealand, Paris. Like, again, you were saying this is not something that a lot of Kiwis do. Also, is Kiwi the proper term?
Yeah, that's the official term.
Okay, cool. Because I'm like, how do you even say that in French?
New Zealander or Kiwi.
Okay.
Oh, it's the same. Yeah,
you could say like if I was saying like je suis Nouvelle-Zélandaise.
New Zealanders.
You don't say nouvelle or nouveau.
No, Neil.
Okay. Sorry, the off mic lessons. Okay, so now it's been 5 years. Do you ever get homesick? Do you ever miss anything from home?
So I mean, I really love New Zealand. So, but I don't really get home. Maybe occasionally, but essentially my homesickness is more for the people, I would say, than the place, even though I really love the place. And
I identify with that.
The way that I know that is because sometimes when I've been feeling a bit that way and I've been lucky enough to have my family visit, then after they've left, I've realized that the homesickness is gone.
Yeah, totally. That makes so much sense. Like everything that you just said, and I know we've talked about this off mic, but like the concept that you can really love where you're from and love where you grew up, but then not really feel like a desire to go back to it.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah. I
mean, well, I do have that because I do really love it, but it's just like, I don't have moments, of feeling sadness and feeling like
that
I really need to get back there soon, that type of thing. Like I'm always just having so much fun
here.
Yeah, to be honest, life is busy. And yeah.
We have a very fun life. If there was something that you could take from New Zealand, besides friends and family, and bring it here into France, what would it be? What part of your culture or food or just anything?
That's a good question. Maybe it would be to be able to walk down the streets wearing like shorts on a hot day and not have people looking at me strangely.
Okay, I feel that. Yes, the cultural custom of being able to wear shorts.
Yeah, I think
boys do not wear shorts here.
Yeah, well, only when it's maybe higher than 25 degrees Celsius, like
which for
like the
Americans,
80s or something.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like probably about a low 80 or a high 70.
Yeah. Before then, they don't, and they'll give you strange looks if you do. Whereas in New Zealand, we're kind of famous for wearing shorts even in the middle of winter. But
we basically
definitely
are like San Diego with an accent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, San Diego. I went there for the first time in December, and that was the most similar place to New Zealand that I've been, apart from probably excluding Australia, which is quite similar.
Right, of course, yeah, geographically quite close.
Yeah. When I was at Duke, whenever the only times I would see people at Duke who I'd think, oh, that person's like dressed like a normal person, and then I'd find out where they're from, and they'd be from San Diego, and I'd think, oh,
it's probably why we vibed immediately. So that is like a bit of a cultural distinction, right? Like we're from very different cultures than, well, I guess not super different, it's still Western, but we're from different cultures than the culture here in France. Have you ever had like an experience where you really felt like an immigrant, an expat, a non-French person?
I mean, I don't find it too difficult, to be honest. I mean, I do find that on a daily basis, but only in the small way of people often speaking to me in English before I've even had the opportunity to speak in French. Right. Like yesterday, for example, I went to walk into the supermarket, and the supermarket workers were standing outside the front door having a cigarette and chatting, and they just looked at me and said, "Oh, sorry, we are closed." And I thought I hadn't even had the opportunity to speak yet
my mouth
for them to have decided that I'm.
So you get clocked immediately as not French.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah, I suppose the listeners can't see, but
Yeah,
I'm
quite
blonde
tall.
and
Yeah, super blonde, quite tall, looks like you're from New Zealand or California, like surfer guy.
yeah, I mean, well, people here tend to think that I'm German or
Oh, interesting.
mostly German or sometimes Swedish or Dutch.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like more northern.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, tall. Very, very. How tall are you? Are you 2 meters?
6'3", 191 centimeters.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Anyway, he is single, ladies. You're surprised it's
like
a
these
dating
dulcet
show.
tones.
Okay, so you get clocked as a foreigner, but that hasn't really like soured your experience. You haven't felt like xenophobia in any way.
No.
Excellent. That's like really good PR for France. You're welcome, France. So, what for you has been the best part of living here?
That's a very good question. There's a lot of benefits.
You can list them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, one is just learning so much about another culture, and there's so many things involved in that. There's the history, the food, the everything that comes, and you're just constantly exploring. I think, especially for the first 3 years that I was here, I just felt like I was learning
so much
the whole time.
Oh my God.
And of course, like, I'm still learning, but after about 3 years, it started to feel a bit more like normal life here.
Right, your brain like has recalibrated a bit.
Yeah.
I'm still on the hyperdrive brain.
Yeah.
Like everything is new.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you go to a restaurant and there'll be like some like type of red onion, and you'll be like, that's like special, and you're like, whoa, like now I have to learn about this crazy red onion. like every day you're just like coming across new things like that you feel like you have to learn about. Also, I mean, the travel is obviously fantastic, both within France and within Europe. And also just the ability to just keep doing new things and meeting new people, I would say, is great. Like, you kind of have like an evolving social thing. You can just keep making friends like all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I got really into going out clubbing here, and I used to like really enjoy going out with my friends, but I didn't really enjoy the clubbing aspect of it. But now I really do, and one of the main reasons is because every time I go, I end up chatting to so many people and like often making actual good friends.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think often when you're in your home community, you kind of have your friends from school or whatever, and you just stick to
More
that.
closed off.
Yeah. And here, I think people are very open to just, I mean, maybe, I suppose some people, if there's French people listening, they might not think that, because I suppose it probably relates to anyone. When you're in your own home kind of setting, you're used to having your own group of friends. But
Totally.
when you're in a big place and you're from outside that place, and there's thousands or millions of people also like in Paris who are not from here,
Right.
they all have this kind of open mind towards like meeting new people, engaging with them, and having fun. So it's just, there's just constantly new people, new things to do. Yeah, it's great.
I love that. I feel like we've had a similar experience, so tell me if I'm wrong, but I have found it to be a very friendly city. Like, I have not had the stereotypical experience of people being like mean or cold or harsh.
Yeah, I never have actually either.
Yeah. Both of us are just like, la la.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we just got lucky. I don't know, but I feel like it has been a particularly warm city. And like, obviously, like compared to like other smaller cities in France and like the South, like maybe this seems harsher or colder or whatever, but like, I don't know, on a global scale, I think it's a lovely place with good people who have been, like you said, very open. I have found it rather easy to make friends. I think this is actually a good question for you to speak on, because we've had a lot of women on the show talking about making friends and growing a social circle. We've also had Etienne on here, but he is born and raised Parisian.
Yeah, sure.
So it'd be really cool to hear about, like, you were talking about building your social circle, and we have an amazing group of friends, and maybe some of them are listening right now. They're like our family. How did that really grow from like knowing a few people? I know the clubbing thing is a bit more recent, but like, how did you develop that social circle, that family?
Yeah, so I started off with about 3 main groups of friends here. There was the group from which I know you, which is originated for me from those 2 friends I mentioned before from when I studied in Germany, Caitlin, who's from Texas, and Lucas, who's French.
Hi, guys.
And so when I moved here, I just hung out with them and met a whole heap of wonderful people who are mostly, actually, the girls are mostly foreigners and the guys are mostly French.
Oh, that's so true. Wait, yeah, that's so funny now that I think about it. Yeah.
So that's this big kind of international group. Then one of my French friends from Duke, she was here for the first week that I was here, and then she was moving to Luxembourg.
Oh, wow.
But in that first week, she kind of friend matched me with her friend.
So sweet.
Yeah, her friend Imeric, who.
Oh, that's how you guys met.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's a French guy from Montpellier, and he kind of thankfully took me under his wing and used to just everything he would go to, like every party, he would ask him if he could bring his new Kiwi friend, and so he would take me to all these French parties and stuff, and I ended up with lots of amazing French friends from that. And then I met a good friend at work called Quentin, and again, he kind of just introduced me to his friend group, and then they became great mates as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, when you said that you had other friends, I was like, no, you don't. It's just us. Kidding.
No.
So, yeah, I feel like that's, in terms of advice for anyone, like thinking about moving, it's sort of like a domino effect or a butterfly effect. Like you're just open, you make one connection, they connect you to other people. You didn't really struggle at all. I don't feel like have had a season of loneliness since being here.
No, and I mean those 3 friend groups, I made them all in the first few weeks that I was here, so it's been quite. And then I've made other friends since then. I think it's just there's a few. I mean, I've often kind of, and this is kind of a lazy answer, just thought like, oh, it's just because I'm from New Zealand and I'm able, like, I'm more I guess there's not many of us in New Zealand. There's only 5 million, and a lot of people on this side of the world haven't met, and so and we have a unique relationship with French people through rugby, and so especially when I go into parties.
That's why you guys all go to those rugby games. I mean, it makes sense now.
Of course.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when I go to parties, especially people from the South where rugby's a bigger thing, and I say I'm from New Zealand, then all of a sudden, like, I don't have any, non-willingness to speak English with me or something, because all of a sudden they want to talk about rugby, right?
Sports. It unites us all, except me.
Yeah. But then there's also, I suppose, just if you just have to be willing to put yourself out there. And in New Zealand, where I don't think we're particularly good at talking to strangers.
Oh, it's very not American.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my favorite things about America. It was one of the reasons why I really liked it when I first went there and decided I wanted to study there. And one of the main skills I tried to work on there and since is talking to strangers, which isn't in my comfort zone whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I just really liked that about the States. And then, coming here, I thought, I need to work on this. And I've made friends from just, like chance encounters, like at rugby games, sitting next to someone, or at the supermarket or something, and then you end up hanging out with them all the time after that. And so I think it's just, if you just make sure that you're subconsciously ready to just
be open.
Yeah,
it's that inherent openness. I think that we have more in common than I originally clocked over these past couple of years, because I'm like, I make friends all the time. Like on the metro, someone pets Stella, and I'm like somehow end up with their number on WhatsApp. Like just friends from like random places all over. And like, I don't know, I'm friends with my dermatologist's daughter. Like, how did this happen? Like,
that's a different one.
Yeah, it's a different ball game. But what about the concept of, like, in terms of friends and being here abroad, the impermanence of maybe parts of your friend group? Like, speaking of Caitlin and Lucas, like, we just lost them to Bordeaux. Like, people coming and going.
Yeah, there is a bit of that. I've had quite a bit of that this year. They've just left. That friend Imeric that I just talked about, who took me under his wing, he moved to Madrid a few months ago. I've had friends having babies, which of course they're still here, but not so much
forever
around.
In our hearts.
So, but then you just kind of see more of the friends that you haven't seen as much of, and you also make new ones. When I realized this was happening, I was like, all right, well, let's make some more friends. And since I've made a bunch of new ones, and especially if I want to keep keep clubbing and things and living a young person's life, and then I guess I should make some younger friends as well. So
makes sense. We do have a lot of younger friends.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so the impermanence thing doesn't really get to you, which is like rock and roll, normal and cool.
Well, yeah. Also, I mean, the impermanence has benefits because when it just leads to more of what is a beautiful thing of having people who, like, friends that live all around the world.
Yeah.
And although you don't get to see people as much when they're not living in the same place as you normally, sometimes it doesn't actually work like that. When you do see them, it's more meaningful.
Yeah, you're more present with them.
Yeah.
You cherish the moment. God, loving this optimism. This is very much the right vibe. Thank you for that.
Of course.
So back to like living in France, culture. Are there any other, I guess, pieces of French culture that you've picked up or like integrated into like your mannerisms or how you speak or what you eat?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Of course. I do like to say "oh la 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 la" quite a lot.
The fact that he's not exaggerating, that's like a thing that people do say.
Yeah, well, it's such a great word because you just change the way you say it to
the R, the "oh la 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 la," right?
Yeah,
yeah.
It can mean so many different things depending on the way you say it. Like "oh la la," or like "oh la 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 la," or like "oh la 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 la."
Please just keep doing that.
So that's a big one. I don't know. Food. I don't really snack anymore.
Yeah, me either.
French people don't really snack.
That's so true. I do love a snack, but I like habit-wise don't snack as much anymore either. Okay.
And I kind of adopted the whole French way of like kind of being a bit more like whole, like not really care. Like, you know, in the Anglophone world, you're taught to think that like the evil is like fat and like like saturated fat and like bread and all this kind of stuff.
No, that's the spice of life, baby.
Yeah. And here, like, France is, I think, the thinnest world in at least the developed world or the Western world.
Love that for us.
Sorry, the thinnest country.
Yeah.
The lowest obesity rates, etc. But they eat so much, you know, like full fat, like
it's true,
cheese
like whole
and
foods,
like meat and everything like that.
Yeah. I joke that lait entier is my blood type. Like, I drink so much whole milk.
Right, yeah, me too. But I think that's also part of the reason for not snacking, right? Is because when you eat this like proper, you're sated.
Yeah. So that makes so much sense. Yeah, because you do eat like whole fats, but it's not like in the US you're going to get trans fats and like ultra processed food. It's not like it's impossible to eat whole foods in the US, but it is much more expensive and less accessible. And here it's much more expensive to get processed food, let's say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like even the cereal, which is funny. I think that's such an American thing. Like we grew up on cereal. And so like one of my like comfort foods of like, oh, if I'm feeling like a little disoriented because like you were saying, like your brain's on overdrive, everything's new. Like the first, especially year I was here, I was like, I want like a comfort food, and I would go get Frosted Flakes. And the ingredients are different. It's slightly different. Like a lot of the cereal here, it's like a lot less sugar.
Probably some of the ingredients are banned.
Yeah, no, truly. Oh my God, there's so many. You would know better than I would in terms of, well, you do arbitration law, but there are so many illegal ingredients. One of the American stores, my friend told me that they can no longer, like an American épicerie, they can no longer import like Jif peanut butter, because it has too many banned ingredients in it. So we can't even get like American treats unless it's like illegal contraband in a suitcase. So yeah, the food thing, same here. Do you walk more now that you're here? Or did you always
I've always lived in driving places, so I definitely didn't used to walk very much.
Yeah, same. I mean, obviously, California, you have to drive everywhere to exist. And like walking is an activity, not like an integrated part of your day. Yeah. But you live quite a ways from where you live. Do you metro or bike?
I usually metro. I often bike. Well, actually, lately I haven't biked so much because I'm transitioning into a new bike, which has taken me a while to get.
That's a sentence I haven't heard before.
Well, I got rid of a bike that I was renting because my friends gave me money to buy a new bike for my birthday.
Wait, I was part of that.
Yes.
I forgot about the bike situation.
But then the bike...
it's been like almost a calendar year.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I wanted the bike was because I just have this mental block of actually, I don't really know stuff about bikes, and it was just the one thing that's been on my to-do list for years I never got around to doing. Okay. And I was renting this bike, and I was like, this is silly, I should just buy a bike.
Sure.
And so I said, if I'm going to get a present, a bike would be amazing. Yeah. Because it's the one thing that I just can't get around to buying for myself.
I think we like attempt attempted to buy
Well,
you a
yeah,
bike?
and then you guys attempted to buy one, and on the day of my birthday party, went to get it, and it turned out to be a scam. And luckily, you get the money.
Right. I remember.
But the problem is, I then got the money, but I still haven't got over the mental block of actually getting out there and working out how to, like, what I meant to buy. But it's like, now that it's like been a really long time, it's like it's much higher up on my to-do list than it was
It's been
before.
prioritized.
And now that the weather's better, because we had a bad winter and it wasn't on my mind anyway, because
Yeah, we did have
I was
a
like,
gnarly
I'm not
winter.
gonna be biking in this now anyway. But now the weather's good, and I'm like, all right, time to start biking.
This is inspirational to me because I do physically know how to ride a bike. Like, I'm so scared to ride a bike here.
You haven't biked here?
No, not since 2009.
Okay, you need to, because biking in Paris like gives you an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Like, and it will continue to do so for probably at least a year. Like,
I
it
wake
is
up with an
fantastic.
adrenaline rush. Like, I'm
Yep.
scared to be alive most days. I'm kidding.
But I mean, I'd never found biking fun before.
And now you do.
And then when I moved to Paris and started biking, I was like, just every time, there's something about being like on a vehicle in the fresh air that you're having control over. Because, I mean, this might sound strange for most people who are used to driving a car or whatever, but there's just something about in Paris where you're never really, you're just on the metro or something, or in some public transport or in a taxi, you're not in control over. But when you're like on, like in the fresh air, on a vehicle that you're controlling, and just seeing like the buildings go past, and all of a sudden you feel, and I know that it's not just me, because I've spoken to other people about this, and you just get this adrenaline rush and it feels amazing. And also you start to learn the layout of the city better.
Yeah.
Very quickly you'll find that then you can just like bike almost anywhere in the city without needing to look at.
So you feel like
maps.
so powerful.
Yeah.
You plus all the girls at Moulin Rouge have been trying to get me to bike.
Really?
Yeah, they told me they would help me.
Right. No,
it's not like an I don't know how to ride a bike. Like, I used to ride a bike all the time.
Yeah, it's just the traffic is scary, but there's
traffic is
so many
scary.
there's so many bike lanes now. It's
Okay.
pretty fun.
I think I might attempt in August when like everyone's gone.
Yep. You should.
Have some open roads. I don't know.
Also nighttime
Oh, that's so smart.
or mornings.
Okay.
Like
before,
weekend mornings.
Yeah,
you know.
before people are awake.
Yeah.
You're a genius. Thank you for this.
Actually, that's another French thing I've adopted is the late daily
that's
routine.
it, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a tough one for me, especially coming from like California morning culture.
Yeah, New Zealand has strong morning culture as well, and but it just didn't work with me.
No, it doesn't.
My old law firm in New Zealand, we would start at 8:30, but everyone would get in there at like 8.
Yeah.
And I would walk in. I would really struggle to get there and I would get there at like 8:35, and everyone would say, "Oh, good afternoon." And
Oh my god, that's crazy. Wait, so what's your start time here?
here it's more technically 9:30, but it's often more like 10 o'clock is kind of thing.
That's so chill.
You can end up having
stay quite late.
sometimes you end up having to start much earlier, but there's definitely no kind of culture of having to be in it.
That actually makes me think. So from where you're from in New Zealand, how close are you to the equator?
Still pretty far. The equator is in Singapore. Well, it passes right around Singapore, which is a 10-hour flight away.
I'm just trying to think, like,
but that is also going sideways as well, not straight
much
up.
like, so I came from like Southern California, obviously much closer, so we don't have like that same swing of like super dark winter and like super like long day summer. Was that similar for you?
Yeah, it's quite mild for us. It's in the winter in New Zealand where I'm from, it'll get dark around soon after 5.
Right.
In the shortest days, and in the longest days, it'll get dark around maybe 9 p.m.
Here, I swear to God, it was like 3 p.m. on one of the days in like the winter when it started to like kind of feel dark.
Yeah.
And now it's like the sun just went down like 5 minutes ago, and it's what, like 10:30.
And in June it'll be like 11 o'clock.
Crazy. Has that impacted like your? I guess like what I'm getting at is like the schedule of like starting the day later or staying up later.
I don't know that well, I guess in the summer it does, because when it's still light at 11 o'clock, you're not going to be, you're not getting ready for bed. You're enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
But no, the whole daily schedule here is essentially 2 hours later. Like the 6 o'clock news Like, I don't know if you have I suppose you don't have the 6 o'clock news in America because you have your 24 hours.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, but I think we did used to have like the 6 o'clock.
In New Zealand, we still have the 6 o'clock news, right?
Yeah.
In France, they have the 8 o'clock news. In New Zealand, the rugby starts at 7 o'clock. In France, it starts at 9 o'clock. You know, everything
oh my
is.
God, that's so funny.
Is
Everything
2 hours
is later. Like
yep.
our dinner time is later.
Yep.
Like everything. Okay. Yeah, like when I first got here, I remember being up at like 7 and wanting to go get coffee.
You know, not even the cafes are open.
Not even a
until
Starbucks.
9. Yep.
Not even a Starbucks is open at
Yep.
7. The Starbucks in some parts of like LA and San Diego are open at like 4 a.m.
Wow.
And a lot of them are 24 hours. Not a lot, but like a good amount. Anyway, before we get into like some fun, silly things, last thing about like your experience moving here, being an immigrant, looking back on the past 5 years, is there anything that you would want to tell like the 2019 or early 2020 version of Blair about the next 5 years?
I guess I would just say, go for it. It's going to be great.
Hell yeah, brother. I love that so much. Okay, so some little fun facts. I guess we'll start with some Paris things and then get sillier and more chaotic as we go on. Sound good?
Yeah.
Favorite place to go out in Paris? President of the clubs.
Another great question.
Thank you so much.
I mean, so we normally go out more for the
DJ.
Yeah, the DJ than the venue. So we don't really have any. Well, we don't have.
I just go where you guys go.
The royal we.
Yeah.
Don't really have any particular favorite club, but you know, if. I mean, I just, like, this weekend I went to Boiler Room, which was in a kind of like a big warehouse in the
super fun.
Yeah, in the Bois de Vincennes. That was that was one of the best like venues I've been to here. Other ones that I would often go to, like actually the best sound system I would say in Paris is at Esheim.
I don't think I've been there.
Yeah, it only recently reopened after being shut for like a year.
Okay.
But it's a basement techno club, and their sound system is out of this world.
Cool. What about in terms of vibes? Like you go to a place and like the vibe's really cool.
It's a bit cliche, but in terms of just going to a club that I know would have good vibes, and I don't know what the DJ is, but it's just going to be fun regardless, would be Silencio.
I knew you were going to say it. I was just waiting for you to get there. Yeah. Okay, yes. Okay, so Silencio. Are there any like hidden treasures in Paris that you would want to gatekeep, but I'm going to force you to share them anyway?
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, they're mainly in my neighborhood, which is around Canal Saint-Martin.
Okay.
I strongly think the best bakery in Paris is one called Sam Boulangerie.
Okay.
SAIN, and that place
like healthy. Yeah. Okay.
That place is phenomenal. The pastries are insane. If you buy one of the almond croissant, or especially the pain au chocolat version, when you buy it, the first time I bit into one of those, I felt like I had like a explosion in my brain.
Like you saw the face of God.
Yeah, just like in the crunch. And I've taken other friends there to get the same thing, and I've watched them do it, and the same thing happens.
Wait, I want to go this weekend. I'm coming over.
And it is a hidden treasure. Like there's no queue. I mean, I don't go to anywhere that has queues, but there's definitely
except for Silencio.
Wow, yeah. But yeah, you don't have to go to any queue for that place, but it's incredible.
Sam Boulangerie. Okay.
Yeah. There's also a fantastic restaurant also in my neighborhood called Deuxième Degré.
Okay.
And it's just classic French food. It's very casual. The owners are this incredible couple, extremely welcoming. The menu is just whatever they've written on the blackboard that day. Yeah,
this is cool because I don't know this one either. This is fun.
No, they're amazing. I had my birthday. Well, I think I've normally had my birthday dinner there, and normally the guy like goes in early and like bakes a cake for me.
So
and then he also has a passion for this New Zealand dub reggae band that I love called Fat Freddy's Drop, and then he'll like bake the cake and then he'll bring it out with like Fat Freddy's Drop playing.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah, and that place, again, going back to the Parisian friendliness, you know, that place came to become a favorite of mine because, you know, the first time I went there, the owner came over and he was like, "Where are you from?" Like, I can see you're not speaking French, and like, you know, everyone who comes to this place is a local, so I guess you must be, and I want to get to know who you are.
That's so sweet. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, speaking of being a local celebrity, as we said at the beginning, very famous. I know you have a fun story about a specific French person following you on Twitter.
Yeah, I mentioned this to you just before we started, which came out randomly. I pulled out of the back end of my brain that when I was at university, Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the French president around the late 2000s, early 2010s, off the top of my head, I'm guessing 2007 and 2012.
I'm not going to fact check you.
He followed me on Twitter for a while I was at university. And I did not have a big Twitter page, maybe like 100 followers. I'd maybe tweet like once a week or something.
The president of France.
Yeah. And it was his official account. It had the blue tick. He didn't follow many people. He was no longer the president of France. I should say that.
He was the retired president.
But yeah, he was the most recent president of France.
I just am so confused about how this happened.
Yeah, this was in 2016. So François Hollande was the current president, but Sarkozy had been the president before him. So he was recently out of office, and he was following me on Twitter. It was very strange.
That's so crazy. Okay, into the fun facts again. Can you tell us about your history as a DJ/radio host? Did you have a fun DJ name?
I didn't have a fun DJ name. Our show had fun names. When I was at the University of Otago, which is at the bottom end of New Zealand, for my university studies, I was on the college radio station there, 91 FM, Radio 1. Shout out to them. And I started off doing a solo afternoon show, and then paired up with a friend or two friends of mine at first, and then back to just the two of us. We had a drive show 4 till 7 o'clock, and it was great. We got to play whatever music we wanted, so long as it wasn't commercial pop. And I remember one time I played a Red Hot Chili Peppers song, and they came in and told me off.
That doesn't seem too commercial. Yeah,
that's why I thought I'd get away with it, but I didn't. But and we had a good mix of like talking about kind of serious stuff and also extremely not serious stuff. We once did what we claimed was a world record, or a world first, which was the world's first live radio station to radio station crossover, where one of my favorite, there's a group of comedians in New Zealand who I love, and they are mostly on this radio station called Radio Hauraki, and my favorite ones had the drive show at the exact same time as us. And on our second to last show, I was like, let's just call. During an ad break, I just called them and got through. And I was like, hey, I'm on another radio show.
Do you want to talk?
Do you want to like do a link? And they're like, yeah, let's do it next week. And then the next week we did it. And there was no planning. They didn't reply to anything, or they barely replied to anything trying to plan it. But it happened, and they were just like, "This is the world's first ever like live radio station to radio station crossover. We've got thousands of people working behind the scenes. It's just like Live Aid,
just like you, you and like a computer. Wait, that's so funny."
But we used to do stupid things like seeing how many pieces of sushi we could stuff into our mouths.
How many was it?
That's good. I think I got 8, but I didn't win because my friend Woodamoo, who did it with me, I think he got more.
He one-upped you.
Yeah.
Now I feel the desire to do the same. You. So what made you stop being a radio host? Why don't you have a podcast now?
Yeah, well, it was just leaving university, not having a college radio station to be on anymore. But
you got to make your own college radio station, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good to start a podcast. I mean, maybe you and I can work one out.
Do you want to be a seasonal columnist? Recurring guest?
I'll be the Canossa Montan correspondent.
Oh my God, yeah, live on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, you got to promote this episode so we build up your profile. Okay, before I let you go, last 2 things. Obviously, we talk a lot about fragrance and astrology on this podcast, so... First one, have you learned any astrology from me in my time?
Yeah, I have.
In my time as your friend.
I have. I haven't learned. I've mainly just learned about my signs.
That's how you start. Do you remember your rising?
No, I have it written on my phone. I still just mainly know about Leo because it's my main
Yes.
thing.
Okay, we've learned a lot about Leo.
Yeah, I know a lot about Leo.
For all the ladies listening, he is a Leo. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm 99% sure you're a Sag rising with a Scorpio Jupiter. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I remember you have a Virgo Venus.
Yep.
Okay. Why can't I remember your moon?
It is, 1 second, listeners.
1 second, listeners. Will we pull up the astro chart?
Leo Sun, Taurus Moon, Sagittarius Rising, Virgo Venus, Gemini Mars.
Yep. Okay. Classic. Well, for anyone wondering, now you know. You don't even have to ask his birth time. And the final thing, would you be willing to do a quick perfume smasher pass?
Of course.
Excellent. Okay, so before us we have 7 fragrances, and I would say that we would do a blind test, but you don't know what any of these are anyway. So I'm going to spray it, and you can just give your first reaction.
Blind.
You're already blind. Smash or pass is your verdict, right?
I'm like Ron Burgundy in Anchorman too. I'm blind.
I knew you would be an Anchorman reference at some point in this episode. Okay, let's start with, let's see. All right, the first one for anyone listening.
This?
I'm going to tell you. Let me tell the people. The first one is from Sol de Janeiro. It's the Cheirosa. I don't know how to say it because I don't speak Portuguese. Number 59. All right, Blair.
Oh, it's good.
Smash or pass?
Smash.
First one's a winner.
Yep.
All right, the second one is Kylie Jenner's new one, Cosmic 2.0.
It's also good. I think less good than the other one.
Okay, so
I feel like I don't want to say smash to all of them because it's kind of unhelpful. So
actually,
I'm gonna
fair.
put it in perjury.
Like light smash, not necessarily pass.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Delete. All right, the next one. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I feel like I said Kylie Jenner and maybe that influenced your opinion. Okay, the next one.
I think this one. Look, it's not bad.
Oh, no. This one is Louis Vuitton Attrape Rêve.
Okay. Look, it's not bad. It's just what I'm going to say.
That's a pass.
No, what I'm going to say is kind of offensive. Maybe it's actually getting better. I was going to say when I first smelled it, which is probably a bit too soon. I thought maybe it smelled a bit like a home scent rather than a perfume.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, smell it now.
Like it smelled more like something I'd spray around the house.
Then chill out a little bit.
But actually, yeah, as it dries, it's getting good.
All right, well, we'll revisit Louis Vuitton. Okay, next up, we've got Valaya Exclusive from Parfum de Marly. I'm going to let this settle a bit as well.
Yeah, that's good.
I
Smash.
Love that. Smash? Okay, I love this one, and Mike said I smelled like his grandma, so I'll never let that one go, Mike.
Well, his grandma has good taste in perfume, obviously.
So it's your grandma Gil. Okay, next one. You actually participated in the acquisition of this one for my birthday.
Yeah, I like that actually as well. So the thing is, they're all smash. So I'm gonna be try and be like a harsh critic. So I'm gonna put some of them in there.
You don't have to be a harsh critic. I gave you a bunch of bangers.
Yeah, but the people want to know which they should actually get. It doesn't help if I just say they're all
so
smash.
True. I mean,
So I think the best
so far
is dun dun dun. Maybe the last one.
The one I just sprayed. Ooh, that's bad news for everyone's wallet. Okay, I got 2 more here. That's my most expensive one, which is why it was a Kenyoch perfume. Yeah. Okay, this one you got to give it a second because it starts really kind of like green.
Sure.
It's going to dry down more and more. I think you've complimented this one before, so I actually know you're probably going to say smash.
Yes.
You recognize it? Yeah. That one is Sintra by Memo Paris, one of my faves. And then the last one, ladies and gentlemen who already wear this, Delina, is a crowd favorite, but let's see if it passes Blair's smash or pass.
Yeah, smash as well.
Well, it looks like everything has been approved by Blair.
I'm an easy...
I'm like, should I get one that I know you're going to hate?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I lied because I'm a Libra moon and I can't decide on anything. We have 2 more. So this is going to be a total of 9. We're going to see if these are passes. These are the 2 I would say are highest likelihood of you passing.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Is your nose ready?
Yeah.
I'm sorry for assaulting your olfactory senses. Okay.
Is the first one going to be Lynx Africa?
What?
Oh, no, sorry. Lynx is the New Zealand name for, I think it's Axe in America.
Oh my God, yeah. Axe, this is like female Axe body spray.
Oh, yeah. No, pass.
Pass? Okay,
Yep.
That was Juliet Has a Gun, Miami Shake, RIP. Immediate pass.
It kind of smells like cherry flavored medicine.
Yeah, it's a strawberry one. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't really love it either. So I'm so sorry to any PR people who are listening. And this one's going to hurt for me because she's actually one of my favorites, but I know she is polarizing to people who are not into fragrance. So I'm going to give her a little spray.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a pass.
This is Coromandel by Chanel, which I consider to be an olfactive masterpiece, but not liked by a lot of people. Okay, at least we got some. I'm actually kind of impressed that I clocked the 2 you wouldn't like versus...
Oh, but it's called Coromandel, which is a place in New Zealand.
Wait, no way?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like the word for like the Chinese screen things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that Coco Chanel had in her apartment.
Huh.
And it's also a town in New Zealand?
It's a peninsula.
Oh, sick.
And I've never heard that word anywhere else, so I assumed it was named after the peninsula,
funny.
but apparently Coromandel
I
has
just know
another
like
meaning.
the Chanel lore with
Right,
it. I
okay.
actually didn't know the geographical connection. Interesting. Okay, well, thank you for participating in Perfume Smasher Pass.
Of course.
I'll have to reward you with some men's fragrances now. Thank you so much for being on the show. This was so much fun.
Well, actually, on men's fragrances, I should say that you took me fragrance shopping.
I did.
And helped me find a very good one for any male listeners out there, which was Oud Blanc by Van Cleef.
Oh my God, it smells so good. I also appreciate how you just like cut straight to it. I was like, take your time with it. Like, see what you like over time. You're like, I already bought it.
Yeah, no.
Well, thank you for trusting me with your perfume journey. You are welcome here anytime. Thank you for being on This Is Fine.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed our time with Blair, our very own Chad in Paris, radio host and live on the ground reporter from the 10th arrondissement of Paris. His optimism, joie de vivre, and Sagittarius buoyancy has been so special to experience as a friend, and I hope you got those warm and fuzzy feels through your AirPods or your car speakers. Also about that perfume segment, his favorite was Amouage Guidance 46, Memo Sintra, and Chirosa 59 were up near the top of that smash category. The least fave was Miami Shake, RIP. If you want to follow Blair, you can find him on Instagram. I linked his profile in the show notes. And if you want more expat stories, we have plenty on this show. Scroll through any of them starting at episode 31 with Amanda and Morgan. We also have an immigration advice piece with my immigration attorney, Daniel. That's episode 69. We'll be back soon with more astrology, tarot, fragrance, life in Paris, and our usual shenanigans. I love you all. Gros bisous. À bientôt. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of This Is Fine. I've been your host, Dominique Michelle Astorino. We're based in San Diego, recording in studio at DLI Productions in Pacific Beach, and remotely in Paris with Emmy Award-winning sound designer Dan De La Isla. This is a comedy and advice podcast, but for legal reasons, this entire podcast is a joke and none of it is medical advice. To download the transcript or learn more, visit thisisfinepodcast.com.